Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking an explainer on something that absolutely every professional, entrepreneur, and, well, really any leader needs to get a grip on. We're talking about the ultimate game changer in business, why strategic storytelling is just infinitely more powerful than simply dumping data on a table. We're going to explore how the right narrative doesn't just inform people, it literally moves hearts, minds, and, yeah, wallets. And to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to look at two radically different scenarios from our source material. We're talking everything from a single boardroom pitch gone wrong all the way to a massive corporate turnaround.
So to kick things off, I want you to picture the booming city of Las Vegas back in the early 2000s. I mean, the city is growing so fast that the unofficial city bird is pretty much the construction crane, right? Now, the author of our source material, who was the head of Mandalay Entertainment at the time, walks into the office of Las Vegas Mayor Oscar Goodman, and he is absolutely certain he's got a surefire pitch. The goal? To build a brand new, state-of-the-art minor league baseball stadium right smack in the middle of the entertainment capital of the world. He sits down, looks at the mayor, and is literally thinking to himself, oh yeah, this is a done deal.
And honestly, you kind of can't blame the guy for being so confident. Just think about this massive number, 40 million. That's how many fans were attending minor league baseball games annually at the time. I mean, that is a whole lot of foam fingers and lukewarm hot dogs. Plus, Mandalay Entertainment already owned 5 highly profitable minor league teams. They had this bulletproof track record of securing public funding, partnering with massive sports legends like Magic Johnson, and building incredibly lucrative stadiums. The financial models were absolutely perfect. The underlying data was phenomenal. By every logical metric you could think of, this was a massive win-win for Las Vegas.
But despite all those perfect numbers, the pitch spectacularly crashed and burned. No, seriously. The author eagerly laid out his low-cost, high-quality, on-time construction metrics. He's talking about ROI, he's talking about ticket sales, but Mayor Goodman, he just stared at him, totally cold. When the author tried to bring up a highly successful stadium they had just built in Dayton, Ohio, Goodman completely shut him down. He literally said, "We need a major deal. Look, this isn't Dayton." Boom. And just like that, the door was closed. The opportunity was totally gone. The author walked out of that room completely stunned. I mean, he had swung for the fences and didn't even make it to first base.
So what on earth went wrong here? The numbers were undeniably flawless, right? Well, a pretty profound epiphany followed this massive failure. The author realized that he had walked into that office and simply dumped a giant pile of statistics on the mayor's desk. He brought records, he brought forecasts, he brought data, but he entirely forgot to tell an actual story. He aimed exclusively for the mayor's head and his wallet, and made absolutely zero effort to engage his emotions. And, well, without an emotional connection, the mayor simply didn't care.
Now, what's really interesting about this is looking at what actually happened back in Dayton, Ohio. Because on paper, Dayton was an impossible sell. The downtown area was widely viewed as a total lost cause. The local press and politicians were convinced suburbanites would be too scared to come downtown at night, and that downtown residents wouldn't be able to afford the tickets anyway. Just a terrible market, on paper. But they didn't pitch the data. They pitched a story. They leaned into the emotional narrative of the movie Field of Dreams. They painted this vivid picture of urban renewal, telling the city leaders, if you build it, they will come. And it worked perfectly.
The irony here is just incredible. In Vegas, a booming city ripe for investment, the pitch was purely analytical. Cost, quality, timelines, ROI, and it resulted in a flat-out rejection. But over in Dayton, a struggling city with horrible market data, the pitch was entirely emotional. Hope, urban renewal, and a shared vision of a revitalized community. And it succeeded wildly. The Dayton pitch turned pure skeptics into true believers because it aimed straight for the heart. It proved, without a doubt, that selling a vision works infinitely better than merely presenting facts.
So the crucial point is understanding this really dangerous trap in business, the data package. A data package is just a collection of facts, bullet points, maybe some spreadsheets and figures. And sure, it informs the brain, but it completely fails to move the heart. And listen, if you don't move the heart, you are not going to move the wallet. We're human beings. We're not just calculators, right? We are emotional creatures. We absolutely need a narrative to compel us to take real action.
To see just how powerful this concept really is, we're going to pivot to a massive scale. Let's fast forward to the early 1990s. The author of our source material is actually named CEO of Columbia Pictures, right after it was acquired by the Japanese tech giant, Sony. And the situation he inherited? Oh, it was a total nightmare. The company was physically fragmented across these old, crumbling MGM buildings that probably hadn't seen a fresh coat of paint since the invention of Technicolor. They had already sold off their highly lucrative video rights,
Morale was absolutely plummeting. The new foreign ownership created this massive culture clash. Basically, the longtime executives were just looking to cash out their shares and sprint for the exit. It was just a chaotic, demoralized mess. So the million-dollar question, or actually, scratch that, the billion-dollar question was, how do you unite a fractured, failing company that has entirely lost its vision? These executives had no shared goal, they were scattered, they were depressed, and honestly, they were highly skeptical of their new Japanese owners. You definitely couldn't fix this with a spreadsheet. You couldn't fix this with some standard data package showing quarterly projections. No way. They needed something much, much deeper.
While he was agonizing over this problem during this painfully long multilingual conference call, the author had this real cinematic moment of inspiration. He was staring at a movie still on his office wall of Peter O'Toole in the legendary Columbia Pictures film Lawrence of Arabia, and it hit him. T.E. Lawrence faced a very similar problem. Divided, warring Arab tribes who absolutely refused to work together. Lawrence couldn't force them to unite using logic. Instead, he gave them a shared, seemingly impossible vision. He convinced them that if they banded together, they could cross an impassable desert and conquer the impenetrable fortress of Aqaba. And this brilliantly illustrates the solution. He realized his fragmented executives didn't need a new financial model. They needed their own Aqaba. So at the company's annual Christmas party, he didn't hand out performance metrics. Instead, he handed out framed photos of Peter O'Toole as Lawrence of Arabia. He looked his executives right in the eye and told them, "We may seem like we are in entirely different businesses, but we are one tribe. We must believe we can achieve the impossible."
Let's see how this builds into real momentum. Because, a story without action is basically just a fairy tale. So, how did this newly united tribe conquer their corporate Aqaba? Well, first, to fix the physical fragmentation, they invested $100 million to build a unified, state-of-the-art headquarters in Culver City. Second, they literally, physically took down the old MGM Lion sign that had been looming over them and replaced it with a unifying Sony logo, proving to the staff that the new owners actually trusted them. And finally, they aggressively reclaimed their lost video rights and officially rebranded as Sony Pictures Entertainment.
And the results of this unified corporate narrative were absolutely explosive. By aligning everyone under a single, impossible goal, the creativity and collaboration just went through the roof. I mean, just look at the unbelievable hit parade that followed in the 90s. Philadelphia, Sleepless in Seattle, Terminator 2, A Few Good Men, Groundhog Day. These weren't just movies, they were cultural phenomenons, and they were the direct result of a fractured workforce transforming into a unified, inspired tribe fighting for the exact same goal. The measurable corporate success that stemmed from this story-driven culture is truly staggering. By 1991, they had reached the #1 spot at the U.S. box office. Within just 4 years, the studio secured over 100 Oscar nominations, which was a historic record at the time. And the legacy of that turnaround? It's still alive today. While competitors like Matsushita threw in the towel and gave up on Universal Pictures after just 5 years, Sony held strong, anchored by this incredibly unified culture. Today, Sony Pictures boasts a library of over 3,500 films and generates over $7 billion in annual revenue.
The big takeaway here is that crafting a compelling narrative isn't just some quirky trick for Hollywood directors. It is a completely free, infinitely powerful tool that belongs in the arsenal of every single business professional. Whether you're trying to convince a city mayor to build a baseball stadium or you're trying to rescue a failing multi-billion-dollar global corporation, the mechanism is exactly the same. The data supports the foundation, sure, but the story is what actually gets the building built.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Think about the very next time you step into a meeting or get up to deliver a presentation. Are you just going to hand over a dry, lifeless data package and aim strictly for their head? Or are you going to forge a real connection, aim for their heart, and tell a story that genuinely compels them to act? The choice is entirely yours. But as we've seen today, only one of those methods actually changes the game. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.